Forza Horizon 5 sells insanely well on the PlayStation 5. Call of Duty World War II has jumped up the charts because of Xbox Game Pass. The FBI is seizing gaming websites offering Nintendo Switch games, but obviously not the legal Nintendo Switch games. And we have some more information here about some pretty big controversies happening around other games like Subnautica 2. EA looks like they're ending Need for Speed and the Nintendo Switch. There's been a weird story happening with Switches being banned for used games, so we will take a look at that. But before we do, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit the subscribe, share the video, like the video. Really helps get the channel out there to more people. It really does help the videos overall getting into the algorithm. So I would appreciate it, but for now, let's get into it. So as we know, the big strategy from Xbox here is putting their games in as many places as possible, and that includes on the PlayStation 5. They've had tons of success so far putting their games on the PS5, from Indiana Jones to Forza Horizon to Sea of Thieves. Tons of games that have topped the charts, even just in the sales results for May. Xbox topped their own charts and they top the PlayStation charts. So Xbox games are selling very well everywhere, and that is all a part of the entire ecosystem. Game Pass, all of this stuff all plays into what we're getting access to when it comes to the Xbox side of things. Forza Horizon 5, however, has been extremely successful, and you're going to see the next Forza Horizon as well be, I would say, just as successful wherever it does end up releasing. But now we have some more data here as to just how good it did in a single month here on the PlayStation 5. Forza Horizon 5 sold 2 million copies on the PS5 in a single month here. They have this information here where the ex-Turn 10 game and level designer Harrison Boland put out this onto his, I guess, LinkedIn and his resume, and this was spotted here on Reset Era, saying, created cross-platform feature designs enabling Forza Horizon 5 to sell 2 million units in 1 month on PS5 alone. So that's a part of his resume. That's what he is claiming, what he helped deliver here on the PlayStation 5. So that's a massive number in a single month. And why that's so big is because Forza Horizon 5 has been out since 2021. And at this point, the cost to keep the game in development and to just upkeep it and everything is significantly less than, of course, when they were building the game before the release. So 2 million copies to Xbox is all just basically gravy on top of everything that they've already done here with this game. And it's just more money for Xbox to invest into Game Pass and to develop their games. And if you are a fan of Forza Horizon, you know that there's going to be many more of these titles coming out because of how well it is selling. And it basically is guaranteeing here that that strategy that Xbox has come out with, putting games on PS5, is continuing, will continue, because it has been so successful. But Forza Horizon 5, pretty insane here how well it did sell in a single month. And it's not surprising. This is a game that everybody wanted to play. So now everybody gets to play, which is for the better for all gamers. And you're seeing it pay dividends here on the PS5. And Forza Horizon 6, I wouldn't be shocked if that game launches day one on PlayStation 5, of course, at full price, and then it will be day one into Xbox Game Pass. It brings up all of the other discussions that we got into last week because of the stupidity around, is Game Pass sustainable, which we know it is right now, and how can they make up for the lost sales? Stuff like this all plays in to what Xbox is able to deliver to us as gamers, which at the end of the day is all that matters, and that is day and date games into Game Pass from their first parties, as well as major third-party games on the service dropping day one. So good to see that Forza Horizon 5 is doing well. Another game on Game Pass that is an older game that we've seen this happen many times, especially with multiplayer games. When they are dropped into the Game Pass service, there is a resurgence of people who play it, and it goes up the charts and the users and everything. Call of Duty World War II, which just recently came out onto Xbox Game Pass. There was also an issue with it on PC, which they had to take offline. Hopefully that does get fixed soon. But as of right now, even just on the consoles and the Game Pass platform, Call of Duty World War II is doing very, very well here on Xbox Game Pass. And I'm happy about this because I've played a couple of rounds. I loved this game back when it first released on the Xbox One. So happy to see people rediscovering it or discovering it for the first time. I think it is a great Call of Duty game. But Call of Duty World War II became one of the top 10 most played games on Xbox following its recent addition to Game Pass. And it was added on July 30th or June 30th, because we're not even July 30th yet. I think that's a mistake. And it, again, recently met with all the positive responses from Game Pass subscribers. And of course, the PC version has had issues with it. I wonder what that issue is going to be, and when it does drop back onto PC, will we see another resurgence for this game up the charts as people can finally go ahead and play and not worry about their PCs getting taken over. But if you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. There's a campaign. Campaign's cool. Go check out the multiplayer. It is fun, and it kind of brings you back to that original boots on the ground style of Call of Duty. I believe this was the first game that Activision went back to after putting out the futuristic Call of Duties for a bit, and then people had enough of that. They went back to this original boots on the ground Call of Duty for World War II setting, and I thought they did a good job with it. All right, we have an interesting story here about pirating, which of course is illegal. So it's not that crazily shocking, but it is something that we will continue to potentially see happening going forward if this is where the FBI is deciding that they're going to put some resources towards, and that is taking down sites that are offering pirated games, specifically Nintendo Switch games. I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up looking at other sites as well that offer more than just Nintendo Switch games. A lot of people were talking about this. A lot of people kind of laughed at this as well, because thinking, why would the FBI waste their time on this type of stuff when there is other things going on that I'm sure they could be spending their time on. But we have this here. The FBI sees sites that offered pirated Nintendo PlayStation games. They targeted a bunch of sites that people were going to. And then when they went to the site, they got we've seen this before, I'm sure. The website has been seized poster by the FBI, and they put this announcement out saying, today we're announcing the seizure of dismantlement of several illicit video game marketplaces. From February to May of this year, there were approximately 3.2 million illicit downloads, and these downloads caused an estimated loss of $170 million. And these sites offered PlayStation, PS4 games, PS5 games, PC games, and Nintendo Switch games, which the original Nintendo Switch was a very big console for pirating. There was so many issues there that Nintendo has continuously tried to go around and sue people for, because obviously they're losing money off of people not buying Nintendo Switch games and rather pirating. But it brings up an entire discussion as to whether this is even worth the time to do, because I think it's obviously illegal. So the FBI takes down these sites and they're stopping this illegal activity that is happening there. But the reality is we are going to more than likely see tons more of these sites continuously pop up. Like, these sites are always ahead of the authorities with getting this stuff out there. So they seize this ones. I'm sure there'll be other ones that do pop up. I don't know how many people are actually going to get too scared off by this happening. And then the other thing that does come out of this is that Nintendo and PlayStation specifically, they would be the ones here that would be complaining about this stuff, and they are getting the FBI to work in order to get these games taken off. So it's interesting stuff here. And is it a waste of time? People would be asking that question as to whether taking down pirated sites is worth it. And generally, I would say, I mean, there are obviously some people out there that use these sites to download games, even though they already own them and everything. But generally, I would say if somebody's going out there out of their way to pirate a bunch of stuff, they're probably not buying those games anyway. So we'll see how this does develop and if more sites do get taken down. But the Nintendo Switch 1, it had rampant piracy for pretty much its entire generation. Nintendo has been trying to crack down on that. And sticking on the Nintendo Switch, this generation with the Switch 2 so far has been very odd. Some very odd things have happened with this console. I have a Switch 2. I like it. I think it's a good handheld, even though it is an at-home console as well. But I've been playing it mostly in handheld, which is kind of reverse as to what I did with the Nintendo Switch 1. But there's been a lot of issues at launch, and a lot of anti-consumer things that they have done with pricing we heard about Nintendo Switches just getting banned if they were getting it before the release day and stuff. Like there was just a bunch of crazy stuff. But now there is another thing happening here with used games. Apparently, somebody actually got banned by putting in a used Nintendo Switch game, a game they would have bought secondhand, which is extremely normal and you're absolutely allowed to do. Put it into their Nintendo Switch, then their Switch got banned. But luckily, Nintendo did end up reversing this. So it was just a mistake. I don't think if you're out there with a Switch 2 and you go out and buy a used Nintendo Switch 1 game that you really have to worry about this. But they say here that a Nintendo Switch 2 user took to social media to warn folks against buying used Nintendo Switch games to use their Nintendo Switch 2. And then the topic surfaced after one user was banned for Nintendo Online after downloading patches for a series of Switch 1 games they bought from Facebook Marketplace, which happens all of the time. And then, of course, there were concerns throughout the Nintendo community and everything. And this shouldn't just be throughout the Nintendo community, because if Nintendo were able to get away with this, who knows if other companies would start trying this. We know what happened with the Xbox One announcement with the DRM, which they were trying to do. And then obviously they ended up reversing that, but I think we're kind of there already, because you need internet connections anyway to play most of these games that you do buy. And they say users far and wide writhing with worry that their secondhand game cards would see them stripped of their Nintendo Online privileges. And then the user explained here, got banned and unbanned after simply downloading patches for 4 Switch 1 games I bought from the Facebook Marketplace. But apparently there is a solution here. They say if you do get banned, go to this Nintendo website and under Talk to a Human, select Start Chat. It's fast, painless, and you get a live person helping you. So obviously this was something that was a mistake, but even just the fact that they're getting banned initially because they put in a Switch 1 game and then have to download those updates for it, and then have to spend the time to go over to the Nintendo websites, it's absurd. Like this should be something that does not need to happen at all. They say Nintendo has an anti-piracy solution that gives unique identifiers to each game cartridge, which acts as a preventative measure and blocks malicious operators from copying cards and then selling them on. So this is kind of what's going on here. If you do buy a Switch 1 game, you may get banned for a second, but then you go to the website and you'll get unbanned. To me, that's just a colossal waste of time for a lot of people. So hopefully they come up with a solution here that doesn't happen, that they don't need to go to the support all the time. You're buying games on Facebook Marketplace, putting it into your Switch 2. This alone may deter people from buying these used games, which is something that Nintendo would eventually want to see, where people just aren't buying and selling used games anymore. They're always going out there and buying a new copy of the game. I mean, the whole industry, to be honest, will love to see that. They're probably always thinking of ways behind closed doors to end the used game market, because they're not making the profit off of those games being resold. All right, this is an interesting story here. EA and Need for Speed. Looks like Need for Speed we may not see another one here for a long time, as they backed a car culture site, and they're winding that site down as they say Need for Speed is shelved. So Speed Hunters is on ice after nearly 2 decades, and EA recently suggested that Need for Speed plans were on hold. And this is according to a photojournalist and longtime contributor, Matthew Everingham, who posted it on Instagram that the site was on ice some 17 years after it was founded. Speed Hunters is on ice. EA shelved Need for Speed, and that means no more funding for the site. Grateful for everything, the trips, the stories, and the lifelong mates. They did announce in September of 2023 that they had moved divisions within the company to work on the Battlefield franchise. So obviously they're not working on Need for Speed. And we haven't had a Need for Speed since 2022's Need for Speed Unbound, which I thought was a good game. I just do not think it sold very well. And I kind of got that feeling just from the fact that it went on sale basically instantly. To me, this is super sad if we don't see another Need for Speed ever. Like if they just shelve Need for Speed, it's on hold now, but that doesn't mean that they'll never go back to it. But if they shelve it and then it just kind of becomes one of those franchises that 20 years later, we still haven't seen a new one because it just isn't profitable for EA. Super sad, because Need for Speed was a racing game, as growing up a staple that I played tons of them. Some of the first racing games I really did get into back with the older generation of consoles. So seeing this go away to me would be extremely sad. I don't think we're seeing another one though for many years, especially as they're focusing the developers who would have made these games on bigger games like Battlefield 6. And from what we've heard about Battlefield 6 is that they're trying to reach like 100 million players. So they're going to be putting a ton of resources into BF6. The game is looking good though. To be fair, when it comes to Battlefield 6, I think this is going to be one of the better first-person shooters to come out this year. And finally, Subnautica 2, the Sega does continue with this game. This is a super weird one. You have the developers versus the publisher, which is Krafton, and now it is getting messier and messier. As Unknown Worlds co-founders and CEO left last month, and they are accusing them of betrayal, and I believe this is also now going to court. So they go on here to say that Krafton's new statement accused the former leadership team of abandoning their responsibilities, which we talked about in a previous video. And then on Friday, the drama deepened as former creative director Cleveland claimed former Unknown Worlds leadership had filed a lawsuit against Krafton. They're saying suing a multi-billion-dollar company in a painful, public, and possibly protracted way was certainly not on my bucket list, but this needs to be made right. Subnautica has been my life's work, and I would never willingly abandon it or the amazing team that has poured their hearts into it. And then in a final twist here, they say a selection of confidential slides showing Subnautica 2's development progress leaked online, suggesting that its content had been downsized due to missed deadlines. And in an unprecedented move, Krafton published a press release soon after the leak confirming the documents are indeed real, saying, given these circumstances, Krafton had determined that transparent communication is necessary and has chosen to confirm the authenticity of the document. Krafton believes that minimizing speculation and ensuring accurate communication with players must take precedence. And according to Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, the former employee's lawsuit against Krafton is for breach of contract. So the big thing around this, of course, was $250 million was potentially going to be paid out to Unknown Worlds if they met their deadlines and they met a certain target in 2025. But now Krafton delayed the game to 2026. Then you have the directors leaving and then Krafton coming out and saying that they left and they gave up on the game. And now the director is coming out and saying that's not true. And there's going to be a whole legal battle surrounding this. This will be interesting to see how this one does end up playing out, who wins in the end, who was right, who was wrong. Because right now you just have both going against each other. And there's probably a lot more to the story that we don't fully know right now. But I will end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
We'll be right back.